If you enjoyed today's video, please consider subscribing to the channel. When you do, make sure you hit the notification bell. That means that you will be informed of when a new video has been released. If you would like to take that support one step further, you can do that via Patreon, which is an optional monthly service. You can donate money towards the channel, or you can go over to Ko-fi.com, and for the price of a coffee you can help donate towards the channel as well. Links for all of those will be in the description of the video, and without further ado, enjoy the video.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whenever you happen to be listening to another episode of the Non League Nosh podcast. I'm your host tonight, Adam, and I'm joined by James, but not the James you may normally know. James Bloomfield of the Football Coaching 101 is in the room with me. How are you, sir?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing really good. I think the new podcast is keeping me extra busy, but I've been finding as much as I can, I think, like yourself, to do in the meantime anyway, with cooking and doing a few different kind of bits. So yeah, I'm very well. How about you?
Good lad. Yeah, not too bad. Being kept busy by the little one again tonight, keeping me on my toes.
Stuff.
But other than that, it's just our sort of 5 hour a night chats that we're going through at the moment to make sure everything's in order to get everything up and running. So there's been some late nights to make sure we get on top of everything to get things going. But it seems to be going all right, you know.
Yeah, it's a good start. Some really exciting guests, and I mean, we're moving on to another exciting one tonight. So yeah. I'm looking forward to myself, and I think that probably comes across in my voice when I'm speaking to some of these people. Some of these are idols to me, you know.
How have you found the starting off speaking to the coaches and everything for everyone at home who may not have listened to the Football Coaching 101 podcast yet?
Yeah, it's been good. It's really different for me. Obviously, I've done a lot of coaching, but I've not hosted a lot of podcasts. So to step into doing something like it, hopefully it serves a bit of a purpose. But I've really enjoyed it. Got to know some great people already, and I really hope a lot of the information that sort of I've taken on board from it is really helpful to coaches listening. That's sort of the whole point of it, really.
Yeah, well, this is it. I mean, tonight it leads nicely on. We're going to have a chat with our guests tonight about playing career, but we've been lucky enough to have a guest who's actually got a coaching career that's started now as well. And we're going to double that up so we can get a double-headed episode. And tonight we are joined by ex-West Ham player Zavon Hines. How are you, sir?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Good. No, it's our pleasure, mate. You coming on. How are you finding lockdown and everything that goes with it? We've had some changes.
Yeah, there's a lot of changes. At first, I was okay with it because I kind of needed a break from football a little bit. But now I'm getting a little bit frustrated because I'm at home with the little ones and they're driving me crazy. So
I was saying to someone the other day, childcare, literally, I would pay triple whatever I pay at the moment.
Yeah, I take my hats off to the teachers and nannies and nurses because I don't know how they do it for so many hours a day. So
this is exactly it, absolutely madness what they managed to do.
You've been coping well during all of this, because I know, obviously, especially once you just got really into your sort of career, you've done a year or so as a coach now. How have you been finding that? Obviously, we'll move on to it at the end properly for the podcast, but
it's been all right. It's been eye-opening because I've gone straight into academy setup. It's been a lot easier to transition, but it's been okay. It's been more than I expected it to be. I just wish it was more on the grass instead of paperwork.
Yeah, definitely. I know. I did 2 years full time. I'll get, as I say, when we move on to the coaching, I'll discuss that. But I did 2 years at Norwich, working full time, and I don't think many people realise the planning, the preparation, and sort of what really goes behind the sort of bright lights of being an academy coach.
Yeah, there's a lot to it now. That obviously probably I didn't have when I was coming through either. So there's a lot more jobs, a lot more thought process to helping a player, discovering a player.
Definitely.
So, but some of it, maybe because I'm an actual footballer, I like to make it more about what's going on the pitch than off the pitch.
Definitely, 100%.
Obviously, the troubles of lockdown that are getting to everyone, really. I think football is now coming back a bit. and hopefully we can start to talk about that together between us. I've got a bit of a topic about that we can have a chat about. But as we always do on this show, we like to try and get to know our guests a little bit, like I say, on a more human level before we go on. And we'll get some opinion of you from past dressing rooms that you've been in, Zavon, and also about what you may like and what you don't. So basically yes or no questions almost. So let's rattle through these and see what you come up with. Straight off the bat, Chinese or Indian?
Chinese.
Good man. Tea or coffee?
Tea.
Yes, two.
Well, that's you. That's in your territory, Adam.
I was gonna say, like, you're already a bit of me. This is fine. Favorite biscuit to dunk in your tea?
I ain't got a clue. I don't really do it.
That's uncharted territory in itself.
That's a first.
Yeah. You're the first person to say that you're not a dunker, right? Okay, that's fair dues. Have you got a favourite alcoholic drink?
Nah, I'm not really the biggest drinker.
Good man. Instagram or Twitter?
Instagram.
Yeah. I'm finally getting into it. I'm being persuaded.
Yeah, Instagram's better.
Yeah, all right. I still need convincing as to how to use it, but I'll get there. Have you got a favourite like genre of music or anything that you listen to?
Yeah, gospel.
Yeah, cool. Favorite box set?
Floyd Mayweather.
Good. Favorite film?
Remember the Titans.
I have not seen this.
Nor have I. That's getting noted as we speak.
Yeah, I was going to say that's one to go down. What's it about?
It's kind of like an old school kind of movie based in America. It's about American football.
Yeah.
Where, in their college, blacks and whites didn't mix.
Yeah.
I think it was Denzel Washington that was the manager.
Right.
Manager, and he basically said everyone's one kind of thing, and then by the end of it,
story of unity and stuff.
Unity, yeah. And for me, that's what I believe in. So
Awesome.
I love the concept of it and what the message that it gave off.
Yeah, that sounds cool. One to put down on the list. Always controversial. Cats or dogs?
Neither.
Straight down the line with that one. Other than football, have you got a favourite sport?
Yeah, I love watching basketball.
Yeah. I love the pace of basketball.
Yeah.
Like one end to another, like constant.
Sometimes football matches are like that, which is not meant to be, but.
Quite. This one's a bit of a, you may not be into it or not, but ask FIFA or Football Manager.
FIFA.
Yeah.
I'm with that one too.
Yeah. See, I've just properly got into Football Manager and it's killing me. So, team that you support personally?
Arsenal.
Okay. You're a similar age to myself, so this one's going to be interesting. Favorite player growing up?
Thierry Henry.
Yeah.
Well, that falls into line with the Arsenal answer, definitely.
Yeah, a lot of people have said him as well, even if they're not Arsenal fans. It's game changer, isn't he?
No, actually, no. I'm lying.
Go on.
It's one of mine, but it's Ronaldo, the Brazilian Ronaldo.
Yeah.
Oh,
How dare I not say him? Oh, yeah. He was my favourite of all time.
Adam, I think when I was a guest on here, that was my answer, wasn't it?
Yeah. But I think like when we were younger, like he was just levels compared to anyone else.
Oh yeah, it was outrageous.
Yeah.
Because I saw something the other week about his goal scoring stats before he was 22, and he was scoring like Messi was doing right now when he's like 19.
Yeah.
Before he was 21, he scored over almost 200 goals.
That's a mad stat, isn't it?
Hell of an achievement at any level, let alone at the level he was probably playing at the time, or was playing at the time.
And this was for different clubs as well. So
I think like right now there's like quite an abundance of talent in global football, and I think it's harder to appreciate players for what they bring because you're constantly comparing. But back then it did seem a bit more straight cut as to, you could say, like definitively.
Yeah, I think the talent back then was it's not the same. there was natural talent which those type of players had, but I think in this modern age, a lot of these players they're coached to be so good.
Yeah.
The coaching, I didn't think they get that much. They did get coaching back then, but not as much as they do now.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
players you're talking about, probably actually, if they would have been coached and they would have had some great managers. But I think they were so good, and I hate to say it being a coach myself, but because they were probably difficult to coach, they probably had their own ways of doing things. If you want to talk about Ronaldo, you have to mention Ronaldinho and that sort of era.
Yeah.
They just did things sort of off the cuff, what they saw, and I think if you tried to coach them too hard, they probably would have rebelled a little bit from it anyway and done their own thing regardless, because that's why they were so good. Do you think?
But I think tactically,
Yeah.
you coach them a lot more because they're so good on the ball.
Yeah.
They'll want to be on the ball all the time and take players on. Whereas now we, as coaches, you look to exploit and create 1v1s and overloads. And I don't think they looked at that as much back then.
Yeah. It's an interesting angle. It really is. So, like, going on from that, and I mean, this might come back to your previous answer in a way, like the best player that you've seen live? You've witnessed a lot of football in your time, so...
Yeah. Probably Henry when I went to Highbury when Arsenal played Bayern Munich at Highbury.
Right.
Henry, Bergkamp and Perez. They were frightening.
What a free that is.
Incredible.
Unbelievable. Right. So then just going up through like the dressing rooms that you've been into, who could you say throughout your time in football, could you name someone that you would say was literally the best player that you've played alongside? Someone that was just an absolute privilege.
It's like I've played with some good players, but not for a consistent period.
Right.
So obviously at West Ham, I played with like Mark Noble.
Yeah.
Scott Parker was one of the best I played with.
Yeah.
Carlton Cole, one of the best strikers I played with.
He's someone I'd love to have a chat with about football. Carlton Cole, like, what a player he was. Like,
there's a lot of players, and then when I was in the England 21s, I played with likes of Jack Wilshere when he was at Arsenal, flying. Yeah. Mika Richards when he's at Man City.
Yeah.
The squad was quite.
So that 21s, that must have been a pretty privileged dressing room to be amongst in itself.
Yeah, the squad was outrageous. Like the squad, when I first went there, I was like, obviously we're all the same age, so obviously I weren't really thinking about it as much because I felt that I deserved to be there. They're playing in the Premier League, I'm playing in the Premier League, so it's not playing for different clubs, obviously, but that's about it. But now when I'm looking back at it and looking at the career that they've had, like the likes of Kieran Gibb, Tompkins, Mika Richards, Danny Rose, Sturridge, Welbeck, Andy Carroll.
That's a mental dressing room, isn't it?
Yeah, so it was a good squad, man. Very good squad.
Very lucky. In your time, who's been the best trainer, best person to influence you as you're training, really?
When I was at West Ham, Scott Parker, he trains us how he plays, and Mark Noble.
And to dig anyone out, worst trainer?
Worst trainer? We've had some foreigners that was awful.
Any names you want to throw out there?
I don't really want to embarrass, but like foreigners that I think it's a cultural thing as well. They thought that they could switch it on and off, but whereas over here, like we want to train us out, we want to play on a Saturday. So some of them thought they could do it, and they couldn't even do it on Saturday, much less in training. So
we had Simon Johnson on here the other night, and he said like they got somebody in at Leeds. Was it Leeds that he was talking about? And
yeah, it was.
Like, literally, this guy, he'd won a World Cup, but he couldn't turn, and he said it was terrible. Like,
no, but it just shows that if you got a good agent, you're lucky.
Yeah, it's quite. whatever gets you into the squad.
Exactly.
And like final one on these, what would you say has been your best sort of? What was your career highlight?
Playing in the Premier League and playing for England 21s.
Yeah,
For me, if people actually understood where I came from and my story as such,
yeah,
for me that was a privilege. And like I said, I've always said to everyone, that's something that no one could take away from me. Anyone could say anything about whether me as a person or how I coach or anything like that, but the one thing that they can't take away is that I worked hard to play and live my dream.
yeah. 100% agree with that. Good answers in there. Still can't believe you haven't got a biscuit that you dunk in a cup of hot drink, but
To be fair, I don't really drink British tea. I drink like green tea, so I never really.
Yeah, that would be a bit wrong, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
You're not putting a hobnob in a green tea, to be fair. Right. Okay. So after getting through those, like, I want to move on to like the core topic. And if you haven't realised that the Bundesliga is back, you have been under a rock for the weekend. In a way, I feel like sick of football again, just because it's been like concentrated so much. And I've seen the interviews. I've watched pictures of the benches. I've seen people in masks. I mean, I've even seen pictures of people disinfecting balls. Like, I'm bothered. So, like, football is back, and the way that we're going to do it is being shoved in our faces, really. Like, starting with you, James. Like, pleased to see it back already.
I think from a selfish point of view, I'm really glad to see football on my TV, let's be honest. That I can click and see some live football. I can't lie and say that I wasn't looking forward to watching a little bit. But I think, was it too early? Was it not too early? I think you can go back and forward. And certain countries, like you've had a previous guest on, in Latvia, they haven't even really had a lockdown.
Right.
So it's really hard to judge their situation and judge them for starting back up again. I hope nobody's being forced to play against their will. It's sort of with the big contracts and the money they're being paid. Obviously, I hope that they're all comfortable doing so, and there's been some sort of agreement there. But yeah, all the political side of it aside, I'm glad to see a bit of football back for sure.
Like the risk assessment element of it, like, no doubt has been done thoroughly, because these are like elite athletes that the clubs are clearly paying a lot of money. I'm sure there's mental insurance policies in place to make sure that things are okay should people get ill. But I mean, where it's going to transgress to really is filtering worldwide. I guess football's now going to spread out.
I think so. Obviously, we've all got different plans in place. Like I said, with different countries have got their, I think we're calling ours the exit plan, or whatever you want to call it.
Project Restart, isn't it?
Yeah, Project Restart, and that will have somewhere minute in that, to be fair, because I think football in the grand scheme of things should be quite low on the importance list of getting cracking again, especially with the rate things were flying. So yeah, just because they're started, it doesn't necessarily mean we should, and again, that doesn't necessarily mean Spain should, but I think it will. That's the start of something, because everyone's going to be shouting out for it, and you see things in the news with people starting to protest against it and that going on. So it's only a matter of time. But I think my guess is as good as yours and anybody else's as to sort of when that'll be.
Yeah. I mean, Zavon, for yourself, like, for a number of years, your life has been dominated by the rotation of the football season, on season, off season. Everything's obviously finished much earlier this year. How pleased are you to now start seeing football beginning? And I do say beginning, because this is literally green shoots, if anything, but beginning to find a way back.
Do you know what? I'm probably one of the only ones that's not the most excited about it coming back, only because of the human aspect of things.
Yeah.
Obviously, because of this situation with the virus and all, and that kind of stuff. I miss football like crazy.
Yeah.
But I think life comes first.
Yeah.
And if we're not allowed out, then people shouldn't be playing football. So,
yeah, I can see that.
Yeah. So, but from a football aspect, like I'm happy that football's slowly starting. but I think it should start at the right time, and I don't think right now is the right time.
I think that's the crux of the whole situation, is that you look to destroy the integrity of the sport if you bring it back too soon when other things are not under control and human life is already at risk. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think they have personally, but this is just my views, and
no, that's fine.
I don't know if obviously my views don't really matter to a lot of people. So, but for me personally, I just think I think it's the wrong time. Fair enough, we all miss football, we all miss the entertainment factor, but we miss football because a large part of it because of the fans and what they bring to the game. I was watching the Bayern Munich game today, and it felt like a reserve game.
Yeah.
I'm not like they played good football, but it just felt boring. It weren't the same. Like the feeling of that football's back. It's just like pre-season when the first game of the season, everyone's excited. There's a buzz. I don't think there was a buzz for me personally. So it didn't really feel the same. I enjoyed watching the game because obviously they're good players, and from a coaching point of view, I get to learn different things.
Of course.
But like I said, I'm not that excited because, for one, things are not the same as what it was, and you're playing it behind closed doors. Football's never ever the same when it's behind closed door.
I think one of the things that for me, like, I want to use a better phrase, but it turned the whole thing into a bit of a meme, was the fact that Dortmund just went to clap the empty stand.
Yeah.
At the end of their game, and I was like, are they having a laugh just because they're mocking the situation, or is it really the fact that that was tradition? Because it's a bit daft.
I can't see it as it being a tradition, because normally if they're going to clap, they're clapping fans, not the stand.
Yeah, you're not appreciating the concrete, are you?
No, so it's not. I just think they're probably mocking the situation because if I'm honest, a lot of players don't feel safe going back to play, and that's the truth.
Yeah,
a lot of players won't be confident to say it because of they might get some backlash or something like that, saying that you have to play because look at the NHS, they're still working, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I don't think football's not necessary. It's purely entertainment for others. It's not life or death, so they don't need to be working.
Well, like Troy Deeney's got dogs abuse online because he said he didn't feel comfortable.
This is what I'm talking about.
And I think that's so wrong.
It's outrageous, but people are gonna say what they want to say.
Yeah.
And I've always said about this situation, people always compare footballers, and the government compare footballers to the NHS workers and the frontliners. Don't get me wrong, the frontliners they're doing a great and an outstanding job to keep this country running, and that's what their job is, to keep this country running.
Yeah.
Footballers' job is to do that. Footballers' job is to purely entertainment. It's an industry. It's completely different. Without the entertainment industry, this country could still run. Without the frontliners, the country can't run. So if they want to compare it with money, then you could look at the government and say pay them more then. Because it's not the footballers' fault why they're getting paid so much. It's because of the industry that it is, and people investing in this industry. They should invest into the NHS because they're the one that's saving lives, and that should come from the government, not the
right. I think people honestly talk about money and how the NHS should be paid more. They talk as if the government are paying the footballers.
Exactly.
Because it's a joke, really. It's not even It's not even a topic. It's not even a conversation because it's coming from TV. It's coming from supporters wanting to pay for it. And I mean, if I could guarantee a football match was going to be an excellent football match, you'd pay even more money than you did. So that's I'm willing to do that. It's not. And I'm not saying that whoever works in the local hospital to me shouldn't be paid X amount, because it's just a totally different conversation. So you do see all of that. And like you say, really building on my point about football returning, from a selfish point of view, it's like you said, it's nice to see a little bit on TV. But again, I definitely hope that, although it seems likely they would have done, there wasn't too much pressure to play if they didn't feel comfortable to. Because you never know their home life and are they living with anybody vulnerable and elderly and things like that. I'm not comfortable with that side, and I think we're probably I feel like we've done the right thing so far, and we've done things at the right pace. And I just hope football sort of follows the same pattern, and we are careful with it, and we see a real proven sort of decrease in sort of the infection rate and stuff. And then football come back, and I'll feel so much better about it. I don't know if you agree with that.
I think like the big thing is that no one should feel bad for not feeling comfortable right now. And like Zavon said, like the whole reason the money has become an issue is because the government have allowed deals to get to the size they are. It's one of those things that when it starts growing and growing and growing financially, it gets to a bit of a colossus, and there is that amount of money in it, and all of a sudden, like you're talking about, people are saying, "Oh, football's needed to make people happy again" and stuff like that. It probably isn't. Like in a way, like there are other ways that people will be happy, and I think that becomes an excuse just to fulfil broadcasting regulations and stuff, and make sure that we haven't got a big money pit that we've allowed to happen.
Yeah,
and that statement there, for me personally, I think is so disrespectful.
Yeah,
because you're saying you want to put normal human beings' life at risk just for someone's entertainment.
Yeah,
for me, I don't agree with that, and it shows that footballers, no matter what, we're always going to be a target of some sort.
And I think the hard bit of that message, as that one as well, is that even when we were at what they were analysing as being the peak, that message was still coming out.
Yeah,
they were like ringing that bell when things were really bad. Like let's not get away from the fact things are improving at the moment.
Yeah,
but when things were really bad, they were still pulling that one and saying like, this is why we need that sport to come back on. And like you say, it does make people a target, because then as soon as you do make your own stand for your personal reasons, then people then launch the whole money attack, saying, well, that's what you're being paid, why can you not do your job?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what gets me, because I just don't understand when the government is coming out saying the footballers should donate as much. I'm thinking to myself, footballers that's earning a lot of money, they more or less get taxed 50% off their money.
Of course.
Yeah, so they don't see all of what the media say that they're on. They don't see all of it. But don't get me wrong, they're still getting a lot. All right, cool. But then they're saying that footballers need to invest or donate. But then other major companies, I'm not seeing them coming out publicly and saying a high-end restaurant in central London that's making hundreds of thousands a day should come and donate to the NHS.
But what they are doing is they're furloughing the staff instead.
Exactly.
Like, which you can say broad stroke because you're not naming anyone in particular. They're doing the absolute opposite of what they should be doing.
Exactly. And for me, and that's what I'm talking about, footballers, we're normal human beings, man. And we get targeted, man. I say we because I was one. So we get targeted to the maximum. And I hate that, because at the end of the day, footballers, a lot of footballers, they do a lot of good outside of football.
Yeah.
But the moment that a footballer does bad, that's what goes in the press, and then people don't really see the good that footballers do.
Like, on topic, like when you were within that environment and playing, how aware were you that the slightest move out of line is going to have you in the papers and going to be called up because of that targeting? Because people are being called out now all the time about this.
Yeah, I think more now than back then.
Okay.
It's a lot more scary for players now, because anything you do, you either see it on social media somewhere, and then it will eventually get to the papers.
It explodes. Yeah.
So, like back then, social media weren't as popping. It's got a lot better over the past 5 years, I would say. 5 years. So, in like 2010, like don't get me wrong, it was more the papers than social media.
Yeah.
So now the papers get stuff off social media.
Yeah,
they do.
Yeah, 100%. Like even doing this, we've had people approach us for people's stories and for contacts to get into people's stories. Like, so they're looking the whole time
So other people are doing their work now.
Yeah, and like that's just naughty, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
it's a joke. So, well, I think that wraps that one up in terms of today's core topic. Like, let us know what you think in the description. Really, you know, are we being driven to football by, you know, a government and entertainment necessity that isn't really there, or are we doing it because it's the right time to do it? I think you've got some opinions there. Like, it's nice to see football complete overload, and like as Zavon said, like there's definitely no real need for it whilst everything's going off like it is, and it's really just being bled as part of an industry, and it's not as important as healthcare. And I think I can't think there's going to be many people that listen that don't agree with that stance, and it's a very decent human nature point on it. And it's so different to some of the other aspects that we've had as we've gone through. So like, I appreciate you sharing that with us as we've gone through, Zavon. Over to the main topic of today. Like, we want to talk about your career, Zavon, and how things started for you and how they progressed, really. Like, doing our research is pretty fascinating in terms of the fact that you've played through the leagues in England.
Yeah.
You've made appearances in both FA Cups and League Cups as well. Notched some goals from the wing. So there's like some things to go through. And there's times when like you've bounced down a league, come back up a league. Played under quite a few different managers as well, like in terms of the clubs that you've been at. So there's definitely some interesting stuff to cover off. But where I'd really like to start off with is like where everything started from. You understand that you're born in Jamaica originally, which actually did lead at one point to you being called up to a Jamaica national team, I think. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, before going on to the England under-21s, before sort of being brought up in England. What age did you come over to Britain? How long were you over in Jamaica for?
I came here when I was 8 years old, 8, 9.
Okay.
So my dad was living here.
Right.
So, and obviously where I grew up in Jamaica weren't the best area or the best surroundings. There weren't really much there. Over the years now, it's obviously it's got a lot better and there's a bit more investment in the communities, but still not enough.
Yeah.
But especially back then, me and my family, we literally we were just in one room as such.
Right.
So yeah, my dad moved here and he got married to my stepmom, and me and my little brother, we came over with them, and we've been here ever since.
Had you started to discover football in Jamaica like at a young age and started to play when you were over there?
Yeah, I was always playing football. When I was younger, my mum and dad used to say I was kicking everything. I'll be kicking the rocks, stones on the way to school, on the way back. So yeah, football was always my thing. And I never ever really got that coaching. Never ever got it really until I got to West Ham.
Right. What age did you, obviously, like coming over to England when you did, and I believe you grew up in London, didn't you? Like,
yeah,
in
Brixton.
So what process did you go through before you got to the point of being noticed by West Ham? Like, where were you playing your football?
So I was playing for a local team in Brixton called Santley.
Right.
So I was playing with them for a couple of years, and just my school team, and then South London schools.
Yeah.
The London schools. So I was just playing there really, and I never really got the coaching. Back then, you just turn up and play like a little five-a-side, just a little kickabout.
Yeah.
And that was it really. And I got picked up by West Ham quite late at under 16s.
That is like, yeah, okay.
In academy terms anyway.
Yeah.
And how that came about, I was playing for my Sunday league team at the time in Watford, at that Watford International tournament.
Right.
And West Ham was there with like all the other professional club and the other professional sector. But me and my amateur team, we had there was an amateur section and there was a professional section.
Okay.
where West Ham and that was. And in the amateur section, my team, we won that tournament.
Right.
And we got to the final, and I scored like 4 goals in the final.
Right. Okay. So you did some stuff to get yourself noticed then.
I would like to think so, yeah.
Stuck your head up on the day.
And then the next day, I just went home after that tournament. I didn't really think anything of it because no one said anything. And like compared to now, like this day and age, you know who's a scout or who's not a scout from whatever club that's watching your games.
Yeah.
Back then, you didn't really know if anyone was a scout or if anyone was watching because there weren't that much people on the sideline watching, especially amateur games.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, I went home normal. And then my manager at the time, the next day, called me, said West Ham want to take me on trial. And obviously, like for me personally, like that's something that was like a big milestone for me, especially coming from Jamaica and getting signed, going there quite late. So I was excited.
That was going to be sort of where I went with it. Like, when you received that call, considering the age you were, and then the journey that you've been on to get you to that point, not really receiving too much football coaching, how did that feel to say, like, you've got that trial and that opportunity?
Yeah. Like I said, I was excited. Like, I'm not really the most. I can't really express how I actually feel. I can't really explain all the time how I'm actually feeling. But for me personally, I was excited. I was over the moon. But I knew this was my chance. Like this is one chance. Like,
yeah.
I weren't really thinking I'm getting too old. I can't really recall me ever thinking that I'm getting too old.
Yeah.
I need to get somewhere now. I never really thought that. I just thought this is my time. Because back then in school, I was like the best from year 9 in the whole school. And then I was playing for South London schools. I was playing for London. And every team that I played against, I was always doing well. And when you're younger, you always used to hear the other kids like say certain things, and I didn't used to say anything, but I used to buzz off it secretly.
Yeah.
When they was like, "Oh, he's good," or "He's this and that," so I was always happy with it. So then, like I said, when I went to West Ham, because I got the call on the Sunday, and then I waited like a week later. I went in on the Monday, and we trained, and then we played a game on a Tuesday or Wednesday. I think it was against Colchester or someone like that.
Yeah.
And I scored 2 in my first game.
You're flying straight away.
Yeah, so that's put me in a good position. So I was happy.
Were you playing as a winger back at that point?
Nah, because back then it was 4-4-2.
Yeah.
So I was up front. I was a striker.
Oh, okay, fine. So you weren't playing wide midfield or anything like that at the time?
No, I was a striker back then. And then
big man, little man combination. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think under 16s, Kevin Keane was the manager, so he still tried to make us play a little bit of football. So it was good for me. And after the Tuesday, I think it was off, and then we trained Thursday and Friday, and we played another game on Saturday, and I scored in that game again. So obviously I was buzzing. And then bearing in mind this has been a week now that I've been there, or 5 days. And after that, I went into the office to talk to Kevin Keane and Tony Carr at the time, just to see how I was doing. They called me in because that's what they normally do with the trialists, to just let them know how they're doing and all of that kind of stuff. So I just thought he was going to let me know how I'm doing. And then after that game, he said, "Oh, they want to sign me." So after a week,
wow,
I got signed.
I'm sat here now, like listening to this, like, with a big old grin on my face. I could just hear from your voice, like the momentum, like building it up and like, cracking it like that. It must have been incredible. Like going from playing schools football and into that academy setup, and then knowing that you've done enough to get a contract. Did you find you were clearly successful in those couple of games, but did you find there was a jump in quality that was really notable, or did you feel that at that point you were at a level that you were still flying, and you felt still as comfortable as you were before?
Yeah, there was a jump in quality, obviously, because a lot of the players that I was playing with at the time, a few of them was playing for England, under 15s, under 16s. So they've been playing for England for a little while.
Yeah.
But a few of them have been in the academy. Majority of them been in the academy from like under 12, so they've had that coaching, they had that chemistry, they know each other. So quality wise, technically wise, they was probably better than me. But I was quite different in I was just I'll graft, I'll work hard, and I'll try things on the ball. Some of the times I probably didn't know what I was trying, but it came off after time.
Yeah. That's all that needs to happen, though, really, isn't it?
Yeah, so I was different to them, and I think that's what made me stand out. And I was a bit fiery, they used to say back then, because I wouldn't give no defender any rest, kind of thing. So like, and then even when I get fouled, apparently I was a bit leery with the referees and other opponents.
You're someone who likes going for a nibble, yeah.
I remember that. But, yeah, it was good because I was different. But like I said, quality-wise, technically-wise, and tactically, obviously there was probably a bit more advanced than me. I was just like a street footballer as such, but I was different to them, and I probably could do things that they couldn't do at the time.
When you signed, when you originally signed, was it at under 16s or was it the end of under 16s? Because obviously that'd make a big difference in terms of being either a 2-year scholar, or was it? What were the terms in terms like when you first signed? How did that happen?
So when I first signed, it was under 16s, the start of under 16. So
yeah,
I only had 6 months to get a scholarship because normally
6-month fight for it.
Yeah, so normally they tell all the players by December, early January if they're going to give them a scholarship, and if they don't offer them one, they'll give them the opportunity to go on trial for the last part of the season at other clubs. So bearing in mind, I've never been in a club academy before. I had 6 months to fight, and
wow.
Yeah, so I just try to enjoy my football, and I played well most games. I was doing well most games, all the games. I think in that season I scored like 24, 25 goals. And that was my first season in a professional setup. And so it was, like I said, it was good for me. And like I wanted it, and I'm a grafter.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I was just, and you know what as well, I never really felt like pressure about getting the scholarship. I would literally, genuinely, I can't ever remember me actually feeling any pressure.
Right.
I was just trying to enjoy the process, trying to enjoy being a footballer, because I never had it. You know what I mean? So because I never had it, it's like I'm thinking there's no pressure, because if I know what it is to not have it, so if I don't get it, then I've got nothing to lose.
So you're there taking your chance, like, and having a whale of a time by the sounds of it as well. Like, do you think like mentally that developed you quite a lot as a person then, because you were there learning, getting involved, getting stuck in, and just loving every day of it? Did it require quite a lot of mental strength from that just to keep going and really buckle down with it?
I think mentally it challenged me a lot more than on the football side.
Yeah.
Because I was stepping into an environment that I'm not used to, and I've never been a part of, and basically, like, I'm stepping into an environment where the culture is different, and I'm coming from Brixton, where our first form of defense is attack. So when people used to try to banter with me as such, I wouldn't take it in the right way. I'm like, are you talking to, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So on that side of things, I thought it was a lot more difficult for me. So I had to be able to adapt to that surround kind of banter and the hard work, and not being distracted and not finding everything as a problem.
Yeah.
Because I keep on saying, like, I came from a bad environment. I had an okay upbringing, but I was surrounded by a lot of negativity.
Yeah. And that can obviously influence, what goes forward. And I get that entirely. Like, the change, like that must. The thing is, like, some of these kids get brought up in that environment from a young age, as you said a little while ago, and that helps that culture bit. But I suppose where the question was directed from as well is the fact that you've already had to come into it at a point when your teenage years are well underway, and you know yourself a lot more. Like, so that adaptation and stuff must have been harder as well. And like, I can appreciate how difficult that may have been just to slot in, but at the same time, you're clearly successful in doing it.
Yeah, but I genuinely think I didn't really know myself back then. So,
Right.
and I didn't like. I found it hard, like I said, mentally, because I didn't know myself and I didn't know how to adapt to a different environment. Because bear in mind, like I said, I'm coming from like an environment where it's a lot of gang related, knife crime, guns, and all of that kind of stuff been taunted around me, police chasing, all of these type of stuff, to a nice, humble, hardworking environment. So it's a contrast, and it was completely mentally, it was challenging, because at times I had to question, are these people genuine?
Yeah.
I weren't used to it. So I've a lot of times I used to always think someone's got a hidden agenda, only because of where I grew up. Because where I grew up, someone always had a hidden agenda. If they was nice, it's for a reason, because they wanted something, or they're going to try something, or something like that. So I had to try to adapt and try to understand people for who they are, and not judge everyone as one thing.
Okay.
How long do you think that took you to sort of settle into that? Was it much later on, or was it during that under-16s year? When did you start to think, actually, these have got my best interests and these are my teammates? And when did you start to feel, or did you start to feel uncomfortable with that environment?
I think I did eventually, but I can't put a time on when. I just think over time I just focused more on football and not the people themselves, because I remember I think it was Kevin Keane. A lot of times the harsh truth is what every kid needs, and I can't remember if it was him that actually said it, but one of the coaches said it to all of us, that only one or two of us is going to make it to the first team. So why do we keep on focusing on each other? So then that's why I thought to myself, like, let me just focus on football. Obviously, I might need him to pass me the ball, so let's come to a reasonable understanding of how to respect each other to a certain extent. But West Ham as a club, they was big on unity and respect anyway. So eventually, over time, we learn how to banter with each other. And then once I got the scholarship, I moved into the digs, and that was like a culture shock to me, because I went from living with my parents to living with an Irish guy.
Wow.
Two white guys, and a Canadian. So
Really?
and then
So the
I'm
difference
thinking,
there.
obviously, like there's different cultures, and that's for me, that was one of my biggest thing, and I wouldn't have changed that for the world, because that teach me how to understand people, and made me realize that literally everyone's the same, because coming from my background is purely dominated by black people. So I'm just used to what black people used to say about how they feel that white people treat them. But then it's not all white people that treat black people like that. And it made me actually love people for who they are, not where they come from, kind of thing. So that experience in the digs, it helped me to build relationships, but not also but just to understand people, and how to understand myself, because it made me open up as a person. It made me be able to communicate and understand how other people communicate, because sometimes we always want people to communicate how we communicate, and for me that's not right. And there was a saying that people always say, treat people how you want to be treated, and I always disagree with that. Why would you want to be treated someone how you want to be treated? Treat them how they want to be treated, because we're all different. And that experience made me learn different sides of different cultures and different beliefs. So yeah, I enjoyed it.
That's such a small tweak on a very common phrase that makes it a far more inclusive saying.
Yeah, 100%. I used to hear that all the time, and then I used to people convinced me that that was the right thing. Like, yeah, treat people how you want to be treated. I'm like, how? Then obviously once I start thinking about life and I started to experience life differently, I'm going through certain situation and I'm treating people how I want to be treated, but they're reacting in a different way.
Yeah.
So this is not working then. So there must be something that's wrong. It must be me then. And that's what I didn't do when I was younger. And that was probably one of my not bad, like downfalls and such, is I didn't really look at myself enough in certain situations. I was quick to blame others. And then over time and experience and my beliefs, I learned to look at myself first of all, and then if I'm in the clear, then I look at the situation and how to solve it.
Looking back, then, is it that time in Diggs learning about others more and learning about yourself that you'd attribute to really helping yourself and your career? Because it sounds like you learned an awful lot in that time, and maybe personally came on quite a journey in that period.
Yeah, I needed to get out of Brixton at that time.
Okay.
Because there was a lot of things going on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was crazy, and I don't wish it on anyone. There's a lot of, like I said, gang violence and all of that kind of stuff. I've seen people die that was close to me and all of that kind of stuff. So over the years, I know for me to be successful and actually try to become a footballer, I needed to get out of the area and focus.
Yeah.
Even though I had friends back then, I knew that my family said it, and my agent said it at the time, that my real friends will always be here. And I never really believed it, even though I was like, all right, cool. But I loved football, so I knew what I needed to do. And Diggs weren't that far away on the train, even though I used to say it was. So
hindsight.
Yeah, and yeah, I know that helped me. Oh, like I said, it helped me a lot. And when I think about it now, I realize that was probably one of the turning points, because I think if I stayed in the area, anything could have happened, and I would have lost my focus as well, I think, because there's a lot that was going on.
Yeah, it's easy to become distracted with other things going on, I guess.
Yeah.
You go forward to 2008-2009 season, and I guess things had settled in well. You made your debut that season in the League Cup, scoring a goal. How did that feel like after coming? Like, that's a journey, what you've just described to us.
For me, like people's asked me these questions before, like, how does it feel? Like, I can't explain it. Like, even when you ask someone else that's scored like the winner last minute, like, you ask them how do they feel, like, it's a feeling that you can't really explain. And obviously, people will say the broad thing, like, oh, I was excited, I was over the moon, because that's what you naturally say. But in the moment, like, it's something that can't be explained. So it's a thing that you have to experience to explain it, because especially coming from the background and overcoming certain obstacles and not even thinking that you ever play for the first team, and there's a lot of times as well, like when I got the scholarship, like I was like 5th choice striker.
Yeah.
And obviously I'm thinking in my head, like, I ain't got a chance then. If I'm 5th choice, then that's below the reserves and the first team. So there's at least 5, 6, 7 strikers ahead of me before the first team.
Yeah.
So to eventually get the chance, and I always believe in, just make the most of your opportunity. But first of all, try to enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think a lot of times as a young kid, we don't enjoy that moment. We get, how do I put it?
It becomes process driven, I think.
Yeah, like we all have don't get me wrong, we all have an end goal. The end goal was to play for the first team.
Yeah.
Then what happened when you reach that goal? Do you actually enjoy it? And that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to enjoy it. And when I came on, I remember just running about and just smiling.
Yeah.
And then I remember when I scored and how it was happening. I was just in and around the box, and then Dean Ashton had a shot cross, and then I just anticipated it and just tapped it in, and I was buzzing. And when I got up, I didn't know what to do. That's how much I can't really explain it. I got up and I just, if I could remember right, I just stood in front of in the goal, and then yeah, like I said, if I was to try to, I would just say it was like a phenomenal time and something that I'll I'll never forget.
So yeah, go on, James.
So you were signed by Alan Kirbishley for the first team. He was the manager at the time when you signed that contract. Was it the same manager that gave you your debut in football as well? And sort of how was he sort of around training, and yeah, what was he like?
With Alan Kirbishley, I'd only trained like a few times with him because I think at that time I was just a first year pro.
Yeah.
So I was in the reserves. So the reserves had their own squad. So the majority of the time, the first team would train separately to the reserves. And if there's an injury or they need an extra number, now and again, a couple of the reserve players will go up. But the majority of the time will be with Kevin Keane. He was a reserve manager by then. So, but then obviously we'll be in and around it. Sometimes we'll watch their training, but it was always okay with like the young players coming through. He weren't one that would not give us the time of day. Obviously would talk to us and try to get us involved when he can. And then, like I said, when I was coming on and he gave me the opportunity, he just said go and enjoy it. So yeah, I thought he was okay with us. I didn't really have that much interaction with him because I was quite young.
Yeah.
You hear that quite a lot, to be honest, for a manager to say to go and enjoy it. And I think that really follows a theme, I think, through people you've spoken to, Adam. A lot of the professionals and current pros you've spoken to, that they've said, I remember a guest you've had spoke about Danny Cowley, just saying, go and enjoy yourself, because if he would have been given any more information, he couldn't have taken it on anyway, because that's such a big moment. So we've had a lot say that. So it's interesting that after all this football and all this coaching and your 2-year scholarship, you've just been told to go and enjoy yourself. But like you say, that's probably the best thing you can say in that moment.
Like the next season, like I've sort of missed out the loan spell that you had at Coventry. I don't know, was that was done in 07, 08, wasn't it? Like, was that done just to gain you a bit of game time before building up to breaking it? Because literally after that, that's when you started having your appearances in the first team for West Ham.
Yeah. So how that came about, it was towards the end of that season, and I remember getting a call from the club secretary Anita at the time, because I left training quite not early but straight away when we finished.
Yeah.
And she said the gaffer wanted to speak to me. So obviously, in my mind, I'm thinking, what have I done now? Because they don't normally call me unless there's a problem. So in my mind, I'm thinking, I started calculating quickly, like, where did I go? What did I do?
Yeah.
I'm like, I ain't done nothing though. All right, cool. Yeah, okay. And then she put him on the phone, and then I remember I came back to Brixton because I just got a car. I came back to Brixton to show my friends like we do when we're younger, try to flaunt it a little bit. And then I remember he came on the phone and he's like, "Oh, Zav, where are you?" And I'm all panicking. I'm like, should I tell him the truth? Because I was still living at Diggs at the time. So,
yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, I'm just like in Brixton." And then he's like, "Oh, okay. I've spoken to Chris Coleman at Coventry, and he wants to take you on loan." But these times it was like 3 o'clock in the day during the days, and it was like deadline day.
Oh no!
So he's like, oh, I've got to get to Upton Park before 5 o'clock to sign the loan thing. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. So obviously, I called I was buzzing. So I called my agent quickly. And then I think I got a couple of tickets on the way. I was driving in the bus lane and everything. I was thinking to myself, yeah, like, my agent will pay for it, or someone will pay for it, or we'll get them in summer if I play some games on loan. So I got there not just in time, in good time, and then obviously signed the deal. Went up there the next day, and then met Chris Coleman, and he was saying just wants me to come in and just enjoy and try add something to the group. So, and it would be a good experience for me because that was my first loan. So obviously I went there. I didn't start any game because they was in a relegation battle. And I don't think back then they really trust young players in them type of situations. So I came on in every game and I scored. I came on and I scored it. We played Sheffield Wednesday away and I scored what was seeming to be the winner. And then last minute, the defenders couldn't keep the ball out of the net. So we drew 1-1. But they're saying that 1 point that we got kept them up. So I was buzzing with that.
Yeah, 100%. So it's just, I suppose, another one of those occasions that, like you say, if that's the point that keeps them up, like, it's something to take forward, and it's going to make you feel pretty good.
Yeah.
I think, like, you know, looking at that, like, your first loan is to a championship club. Like, we've spoken to some other players and stuff. Like, rarely do you see people only drop one division on their first loan after coming through development.
Yeah.
So you're going in at a good standard.
Yeah, and like I said, I was a bit surprised about the whole situation. But when he said he's been watching me for a little while,
right?
In the reserves when I was playing in the reserves, so I was like, okay, that's nice to know.
It's good to know you got someone that knows you or knows of you before you go there. You then obviously got to play under Gianfranco Zola. Like, what was that like?
It was good. For me, it was amazing because that's where I've officially properly made my breakthrough. And he gave me that confidence to be able to just go out and play. And he was good with all the youngsters, me, Junior, Freddie, Jack at the time, James Tompkins. We had, he was good with all of us, and he trusted all of us because a few games there was me, Junior, and Jack and James started all three, so that all four of us started a Premier League game, and for me that was good for the club, and he just showed that he had confidence in us. But then also we had to show that we deserved to be there. And we was around good pros as well, like pros that won't let you slack, and players like Scotty and Mark. I'm telling you, they won't let you slack. But then when you do good things, they'll let you know that as well. So it was good working on the Zola, and he was very hands-on, especially in training. So not only he'll get involved, but he'll give you like key and little golden nuggets that will help you develop as a player. And that's when I started to develop more, because we used to do one-to-ones after training sometimes. Whether it's shooting or just movement off the ball kind of stuff. So it was good. It was good, and he always spoke to us. To be fair, always kept us like informed about everything. Just tried to banter with us as well. But he had that good balance. He weren't with us all the time. So whenever we do go into a meeting, we knew that it means business then, because some managers you don't want to be seen as just like a clown. You want the players to take you seriously as well.
I mean, like in that season, like you say, he's given you a big opportunity there. You made a few more appearances that season, and got another couple in the League Cup as well. In terms of like in the dressing room and stuff, like with the experience that he'd got, was that like you starting to find a different gear in terms of football and stuff like that, or is it still fairly, like, in terms of the way they address you and everything, still pretty much the same, just across different managers, and you weren't too starstruck by who it was. Like, he's a great of the game,
Yeah.
of course.
Like I said, I always like. Obviously, I knew about him before, and I just wanted to impress, and because I wanted to be a part of the first team, so I never really looked at it as, he's a great. And obviously, I had in the back of my mind, I knew this is Zola, the one that was chopping up Man United.
Yeah.
But like I just wanted to play. I was very focused on being a part of the first team, and I know to work hard to be my best, to be a part of it. So I weren't starstruck because I weren't a Chelsea fan.
Being an Arsenal fan makes that a little bit different, really. So, in terms of like, as things went on, like the next season again, more appearances. Like, how did your time at West Ham come to an end, and how do you look back on that spell of your career as a player, really, before we sort of move on?
Came to an end the way I didn't want it to, because I didn't really want to leave. I didn't want to leave. But I remember when the club got relegated, Avon Grant was the manager at the time, then Sam Allardyce came in.
Yeah.
The club did offer me a new deal.
Okay.
But I went and spoke to Sam Allardyce, and just the impression and some of the things he was saying, he was just basically weren't bothered if I was at the club or not. And he was just saying that he's going to get in players because other players has messed the club up and not worked hard for the club, and the club shouldn't be in this position, which he is right, because the club shouldn't be in the Championship.
Yeah.
He just made it seem like he weren't really bothered if any of the young players was here or not. Hence why me and Junior left at the same time.
Right. Did he feel exactly the same? Did it, in terms like you came away with the same impression from it?
Yeah. And at that time, his style of play, his style of play and the players that he was signing, was completely different to me.
Yeah.
How I play, and a completely different size to me as well. So, so I just felt for my own growth, I needed to maybe I should have stuck it out and fight for my place. In hindsight, I should have done that, but you live and you learn, I guess. And I just felt that with other discussions with my agent at the time, that's what needed to happen, me moving on. But I didn't, if I'm transparent, I've always said it, I didn't really want to leave at the time.
So I suppose you don't want to leave at the time, really. The new contract's there, but like literally, it's just purely on feeling. Like, in terms of the way he would be as a manager, you felt you knew at that point it just wasn't for you then.
No, I just felt that he weren't going to play me, and he didn't want me.
Yeah.
And I felt like, and just some of the things he was saying, it's not like on just feelings, it's just more what he was saying, and how they was treating me during pre-season, because I didn't sign the deal straight away. I didn't really play any pre-season games. I didn't go. They went away. I didn't go away with them. And then sometimes I was training with the reserves and things like that. So just how they was treating me. And then I went and had a chat with him.
Yeah.
And then he was just like, yeah, whatever kind of thing. So I was like,
you kind of know where you are at that point, I guess.
Yeah. And I thought it was wrong. Because obviously I love the club, and the club giving me a lot. I just wanted to play for the club, especially to try to get them back into Premiership, which they did do and which he done. But as you can see, it didn't end well for him.
No. So moving forward from there, James, have you got anything that you wanted to add or take?
No, I'm really glad that obviously during the time there you've expressed loads of really positive moments, and it sounds like you loved your time there and how proud you were. I could hear the smile almost on your face coming through what you went through sort of as a youngster to getting into the academy. That's a hell of a journey from sort of start all the way up until that point. And I think you sort of have to look back at it, although it didn't maybe end the way you wanted it to, or a little bit early. I think you look back on it as real positive in terms of how much you learnt during that time, and obviously playing under Zola and the progress during that, and playing under some of the best players you've played with in your career. So I think you've got to look back at it, smile and say, yeah, that's sort of the Premier League ticked off. I've played in that and sort of taken a lot further forward from it. So it's nice to hear the real positive side of that.
100%. 100%.
Going on to Burnley, it's obviously not Brixton, is it?
Oh.
It's like, how did the move come about? It's a long way away.
Oh, it's definitely not Brixton.
Obviously I didn't know your story, like in terms of where you'd come from in London and stuff, so it makes the whole move to Burnley seem like mad.
Yeah. At the time, Eddie Howe was the manager,
right?
So, and I remember he wanted to play a brand of football that I like, and he still does now.
Yeah.
And I remember him calling my agent, and he wanted to talk to me about coming up there. But and I had a conversation with Crystal Palace as well. Funnily enough, Dougie Freeman was the manager, and he called me up. And I should have stayed, and I should have went there. But bad decisions, I guess. But I don't know.
How hard is it? Is that one to like make those decisions in the moment when you're having contracts or offers of contracts chucked at you and interest? There's dilemmas, isn't there, at every corner, surely?
Yeah, that's what I don't know. I think at the time Crystal Palace was in the Championship as well. I think, yeah. So I don't know. There was a lot going on in my mind, and there was a lot my agent was probably saying at the time, saying this, why I shouldn't go Palace, or all of that kind of stuff, and why I should go Burnley. She was a lady as well, so she was from up north as well.
Okay.
So she was selling it to me more than normal.
Right.
So, and I think, like I said, in hindsight, I probably should have stayed local, because that's where I played my best football, around my family and friends. And that's probably part of the reason why it didn't work out, because it just didn't work because of a lot of factors. But I always like to look at what I did, why it didn't work out, and I probably didn't help myself enough.
Okay. I mean, obviously, like, still got to play in the Championship for Burnley, and like
it weren't enough though.
No.
It weren't a good time, because me and Eddie Howe kind of clashed a little bit, because I didn't feel that he didn't understood me as a person. So we kind of clashed in how I am, and how I just deal with things.
Is that just obviously got a bit of a lack of understanding there as to how you were at the time, like with that clash? Like, is that what led to the loan back out to Bournemouth? Did you just say that you just needed to get away from it?
Yeah. So by that time, towards the end of the season, by then I just wanted to play football. Because I'm up there living in a nice house, and I'm not enjoying football. I'm going to training. I'm not really enjoying it. I'm feeling like I'm not being treated well. But at that time, instead of me grafting and doing extras and doing what I need to do to kind of shut him up and prove him wrong, kind of thing, I probably didn't do that. So I didn't help myself in that aspect. I just wanted to, what I used to think was, as soon as I finish training, let's just get out of here. I don't want to be here. So, and that's the wrong mindset to have. But obviously I know that now. So by towards the end of the season, I just wanted to go out and play. I just wanted to go out and play. So Bournemouth came in and they said just come and play a few games. And then imagine I went down there on the Thursday, trained on the Friday. So then we had a game in Oldham, all the way back in Manchester. And then
Sticking
had to come back.
New car.
Yeah, some mileage, and then came all the way back up there. We played Oldham on Saturday. We lost 1-0. I stayed up, and then the manager got sacked on the Sunday.
No.
Yeah, so it was a crazy time.
Oh man. So like that whole season, pretty unstable all the way through then for you, I guess. Like whenever you're looking to try and do something positive, there's something else around the corner all the while. Like, did you just have to get out of your deal at the end of that season? Because after that year, you moved on a permanent deal and had a really good run of games and stuff.
Yeah, so I went to Bradford after that because it got to a point that I just wanted to prove everyone wrong, kind of thing. Because I think people had this perception of me of I could be a bad egg, but I've never ever been a bad egg, and I was confused why people will say that.
Yeah,
I've even till this day, right now, I really want to sit down with some of my old managers and try to understand what I used to be like, because maybe I was seeing something different or of how I was as a person or what I used to do. And I just think a lot of people don't really understand people in general. So they'll make false accusations of things like that. And then that goes around the game. And once that goes around the game, then you're screwed as a player. Because no manager, football's who you know, and a lot of managers are connected, so they're always gonna do their reference call.
Would you say that a lot of managers, by the sounds of it, I'm going on sort of what you've given me there, and I could be wrong. Do you think there are some managers, without you can name names if you like, that maybe don't spend enough time personally getting to know you and your circumstances, and to sort of get behind you as a person? So Zavon Hines as a man and as a guy, getting to know you rather than just you as a footballer. And do you think they assume things rather than spending that time?
100%, and I think not only me but every player. I think more now maybe they're looking into it a lot more because there's a lot more psychology and all of that kind of stuff to the game. But back then, well, I keep saying back then like it was ages ago. Like when I was playing, I just feel that the managers that I've had didn't really take interest in the personal life or the human being in the player. They didn't really do that. And for me, like that's where a lot of managers go wrong. And for me, I would do my best for a manager if I feel that he wants me and he trusts me. A lot of managers don't give that, and that's the problem. I think a lot of managers tell players what to do, not give them the responsibility. Sometimes, as a player, you need to be given the responsibility to make certain decisions, and be allowed to make the wrong decision and not get crucified for it, because no one's perfect. But I think few managers I've had, they expect everything exactly right, like they weren't players themselves. And for me, that was confusing, because then when I, like I said, I think like at times I probably could have reacted a better way about certain things. But when I'm feeling like I'm getting attacked consistently and other players are doing the same thing but not getting the same treatment, I think I don't take to that. And it rubbed me up the wrong way, and I probably did react, not aggressively or anything like that. I probably just ignored or because I've never ever had an argument with any manager. I've never ever had that. That's why it's confusing, because I've seen players have full on blown arguments with managers, telling them all sorts, and then they'll play on the next game. But then someone like me who's just quiet and just keep to myself and probably sulk a bit, will get touted to be something that they're not. And that used to frustrate me when I was moving on from clubs and my agents calling around and they're ifing and ahhing because of attitude and all of that kind of stuff. And I'm confused because the players that's having full blown arguments with managers, they get told that they're winners.
Yeah.
And I'm like, He's a winner.
Johnson said about this to Zavon. He said that he thought he would basically end his career at one of his clubs because he got so cross he just went off at the manager. He lost it, but then he got picked after that. He said this makes no sense.
It makes no sense. But I don't know. Like I've learned a lot from managers that I've had. Honestly, I've learned so much. But not only that, I've learned a lot because of self-development and self-evaluation. When I think about myself, I think about what I've been through. Certain things come back to me, and certain situation comes back to me, and then it makes me learn about how and what I want to be like when I'm coaching.
Yeah. I mean, like, would you say, like, I know, without stating the obvious, like, Bradford was where you had your first consistent run of appearances in that season.
Yeah.
Did you start to find your football and find what you wanted to do a bit more that season?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had a good time. That at Bradford was probably one of my best times of my career. We had a good season. We had a good core. We had a good squad. We had good staff. And we done something that the club's never done before. And we made history as a team. We got promoted from the League Two, and we went to the Carling Cup final. That didn't end well, but we still defied all the odds by getting there and beating a few Premier League teams on the way. So it was good to be a part of that, and we had a good mentality about us. We all knew our jobs.
Yeah.
Knew what we was there for, and then we enjoyed it. I think as well, and it was funny that season. Towards the end of the season, after the Carling Cup final, obviously we lost, and then we was outside the playoffs. We was like 9-10 points outside the playoffs.
Yeah.
And we had to catch up basically. So, and lucky enough, we went on a run that we were just unstoppable. We was beating everyone, drawing. We were never losing. And then we got into the playoff spot. And then in 2 games, I think we had Burton, home and away. And then we just smashed them. So it was a good time, and I enjoyed my football, but I didn't enjoy my living. So it was difficult off the pitch at times for me.
Right. Is that anything that you could go into in terms of what you weren't enjoying?
Football-wise, it was good. I just didn't really I'm a homely person, so I was away from home for 2 years in total. Bradford and then Burnley and then Bradford.
Yeah, they're a long way from home for you.
Yeah.
Those 2 places.
Yeah. So it was quite different for me. And then I went from living by myself to living with 3 others at Bradford. 2 others at Bradford. So just living wise, just being away from home, I wanted to be back in London, to be fair. And I found that a little bit difficult. But I was still around people that was from London, Carl Reed, and kind of it was good. It helped me just settle a little bit. But I've always had in my mind that if possible, I wanted to try get a club back in London once my deal's up, because I only signed a year there.
Right. Okay. So one of the things I'll pick out, it's probably a bit obvious and probably been asked you about a million times. That cup run was something else.
Yeah.
That season.
It was frightening.
Energy and stuff in the dressing room. How did it just keep going? Was it just a huge snowball effect that just kept growing and growing and growing? Where was the belief in that? Was it just happening, or was there that whole team cohesion that?
I think we all knew how we played, but we also had some players that could play. So get the ball down. If it was a team that just kept on kicking it along, eventually it'll catch up to us because the gaps will appear all of that kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
we had players at times that when we needed to pass it, we passed it. We had pace. We had a big man. We had a little man running off the big man. We had pace on the wing. We had energy in midfield. We had defenders that will put their head where it needs to be put. But then we had a togetherness as well within the team that we all knew the structure out of possession. So at times it was 4-4-2. So it was hard to. Don't get me wrong, we rolled our luck a little bit at times, but sometimes I don't believe in luck. I just believe in destiny. That's what was meant to happen. And we just done what we needed to do. We stuck together. A lot of times we was under the cosh. We stuck in the game, and got what our hard work deserved.
And I guess being I know you said Bradford, being there itself is difficult for you because it was away from home, but as teams and clubs go through cup competitions, one of the main things that you notice is an atmosphere within towns and cities grows amongst the people. There's a buzz. Could you really feel that as something absolutely unbelievable was taking shape, was around the actual city itself? Was there a real different feeling and stuff around?
I think there was a buzz around the club in general, because it's a big club. The stadium's at 25 to 30,000.
Yeah.
In League Two, that's frightening in itself. So most clubs that was coming there in League Two, they're seeing Bradford as a big club, which they are. So a lot of teams was coming to try to upset us, but there was a buzz around. There was a buzz around the place. There was an excitement because we was doing well, and that always happens whenever you're doing well. Everyone jumps on board, and as soon as you're not doing well, fans don't turn up. So, and that's just how it is. But yeah, the club was buzzing, and I think the togetherness that the manager created helped massively. And then, like I said, we had decent, good players. We had players that's played higher, and players that should have played higher. And we had a good team spirit that got us through games.
It's I think it doesn't. You don't always have to be the most gifted, as well. Player, you don't have to have a squad full of entirely gifted players to get to those stages. If you've got players that will all play for each other, I guess.
Yeah, 100%. And I think we had the right mix, which is why we done so well.
Yeah. So getting brought into it's obviously I don't know really how to summarize that one, because it seems like you had people would absolutely beg for a season like that.
No, we had a good season. Honestly, I look back at it now, and it's probably one of my best seasons. I probably didn't play my best football.
Yeah,
but I was part of one of the best teams I've had.
But with you wanting to be closer to family and stuff, was the move to remain in League Two, go to Dagenham and Redbridge, an easy one for you?
Yeah, it was easier, but how that came about again, it's like I said, it's frustrating. Whenever you're out of contract, it doesn't matter what you've done or where you've been. Honestly, if someone's got a perception of you, or it's as a footballer, it's difficult. So now I've told all the kids, your reputation is everything, your name is everything. So make sure everyone speak about you in a positive light. And for me, and from my point of view, I try to understand every player before I make a judgment.
Yeah,
and I think a lot of coaches don't do that. Like I said, it was when I was out of contract. Like I said, I wanted to move back. So obviously we spoke to all the clubs around London area, and normally they'll do their jobs and call for reference and all of that kind of stuff.
Mm.
So I'm assuming that they've spoken negatively again. I don't know. I'm just assuming because I had a good season. I played over 30 games and I had a good season. We went to the Carling Cup final, and funny enough, I was so frustrated about this. In that cup run, before I signed for Bradford after they played the first round.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, I played every round. I started every game up until the final.
Yeah.
I was the only change in the final. I was fuming. And then they expect me to not to be unhappy.
Yeah.
And that's what's crazy about managers. They expect you to accept everything and just not be unhappy. They expect you not to have emotions. They're nuts. And then, yes, but back to what I was saying. Yeah, I just wanted to come back. So obviously my agent at the time, they called around, and obviously by that time everyone's got their number one targets, second choice, and all of that kind of stuff. So I was waiting a little bit, and then pre-season was about to start. Pre-season started, and then Dagenham said they want me to come in. So in my mind, because I knew how their style of play was from before,
Yeah.
I was like, this is not going to suit me. I'm just going to have a neck ache all the time, just looking. It's not me. I'm like, it's not going to be me. But like Wayne Burnett was the new manager.
Yeah.
So then he was like, just come in, just have a look at see if you like what we're trying to do, and vice versa. And then I was like, I need to get. Part of me wanted to get back into the swing of things anyway. And I was tired of waiting for a response from other clubs, because that's what other managers do. If you don't want someone, just say no. I don't understand why you do that to players. It's disrespectful. So I just said, all right, cool. I went in, and then from my first session, they was trying to play. Wayne Bennett is all about his football. He's trying to play football, trying to build from the back, and he's trying to do this. He said he planned to do this in League Two with Dagenham, and I'm like, huh? I like this. So then, when after I played a couple games, I played one game against a pre-season game. I think it was against Palace.
Yeah.
Or Charlton, and yeah, I came on and I just ripped it up and got a penalty stuff, and then I just signed a year deal. And then it was just good for me, because he was good for me. He's one of the best managers I've had, coaches I've had.
Right.
It was basically like what I said to you before. He actually took the time to actually try to get to know me, not the football, just me. So we used to have like meetings every 6 weeks, just like a 15-20 minutes meeting with every player. Let's talk about life and talk about everything else off the pitch and not on the pitch.
It's so obvious through this discussion how important for your career people actually knowing you and knowing what's going on was to you. How much that can just ruin a career as well, in terms of if you're not cared for properly.
Yeah, but if you see how football is now, they've realised how important that is. Because like all the best coaches, and I've always said it, the top coach that's at the top now, the Brendan Rodgers, the Klopp, the Pep, a lot of the times, if you see their interviews, they always say you got to understand the people, the person, the human being before the player. The player comes second, because if the player is unhappy off the pitch, you're not going to get a fully focused and on fire Zav on the pitch. You're not going to get, because there's a lot of distractions, and we know that we play the game in our mind before we play it with our feet. And if you don't do the right things, or if you're not in the right place, whether mentally, emotionally, it's going to affect your game. And a lot of these managers don't. But when I was playing, I don't believe that they took that as a major priority.
I think when you look at sort of the qualities of a really good coach, you've mentioned it there, really, the qualities of a really good coach, let alone a good manager, I think is getting to know the person, and then human qualities, the human aspect of it, the personal qualities. And I think that is a big part. And I hope you'll agree with me that it's a big part of why the best players don't always make a good manager. Like it or not, it's such a different career and such a different sort of skill set you need to get to know people. How do you feel about that? So you obviously played under people like Zola, for example, and you played under a number of managers. So have you found that the ones that, like you say, the ones that are the best people person, and it comes down to that sort of human quality of theirs, rather than whether they're an excellent coach? You hear a lot of people mention that.
Yeah, don't get me wrong. I think the coaching side of it on the pitch, that's the most important thing. But
Yeah.
To implement what you believe and what you know as a coach, you need to know what makes your players tick or how they learn and how you could get the best out of them, how you could engage. And I don't think, like I said, a lot of coaches, they just put sessions on and then expect, and then what tends to happen, the players just play the practice and not the game.
Are you like absolutely like? Are there times that you can say you go back through your career where like the coaching just wasn't engaging?
Oh yeah, a lot of times. A lot of times they just put on a keep. I played in teams. Yeah, I'm not gonna say any names. I played in teams. We do keep ball session, and then on a Saturday we're just kicking it long. What's the point of
That's common.
Yeah, there's no point to that at all. You're not practicing what you're playing.
And then it got to a point, and I played in a team. Honestly, this is when I fell out of love with the game, because I couldn't play like that, because our training session was outrageous. It weren't football. It was, and I'm sitting on the side with a few of the other players, and because we're not in control, we're saying, "What is this? Like honestly, what is this?" Like, and these are top managers, the managers that's done things in the game, and I'm thinking, "Oh, you've done things in the game, and you're doing this. Makes no sense."
Yeah.
But then I always say, slowly but surely, those type of managers, as you can see now, you're not seeing them much.
They filter out the game.
They're filtering because the game is evolving and players are evolving. You got, like I said, if you're not a good people person, you don't know how to engage or how to understand people, even if you don't agree with them, you still need to understand how to get the best out of it, because as a manager, that's your job. Especially if you brought them in. One thing I've always disagreed with: if always do your recruitment properly. There's no point bringing a player in and then after 2 games you want to loan him back out. It makes no sense.
Yeah.
And I've seen that so many times in my career. Like players, especially in non-league, there's the loan system's outrageous. They should scrap it.
Yeah.
Twice a year. You by when I was at Bradford, not Bradford, Chesterfield.
Yeah.
At the start of the season, we started with one team. By the time it came to January, almost the whole team changed.
Yeah.
I'm thinking, how are you meant to go up with no consistency?
Like, I mean, lower down the pyramid as well as that. Like, there's like you start getting on the whole non-contracts and stuff, and like I'm sure, like because I'm involved in football at a similar level to James, albeit doing a completely different thing. But you see people play one game, don't you, and then they just go.
Yeah, but
never see them again, and you think, like, why are you getting these people in?
But you're not at that level. You're not allowed to have a bad game.
Yeah,
not allowed. Because if you do, you're not going to be there again.
I can agree with that. Like you just expected to get a standard, I guess. Yeah, it's mad. I mean, like as you went through Dagenham and Redbridge, like playing time dried up a bit. Like, was that down to injuries or was it other things?
So yeah, I got injured at in like February time because I was doing quite well, playing a few games. Then I got injured. I done my ACL. Then I was out for a long time.
It's a big one.
Frustrated for me because, and that's been my Achilles heel, as they say.
Yeah.
I've only ever had 2 injuries in my career. Both of them has been long term. One at West Ham and one at Dagenham. And yeah, I was just out for a long time, and which kind of slowed my career down because things were starting to pick up at Dagenham because I was doing well. I remember it like in November, I got like the Player of the Month for League 2, scoring goals.
Yeah.
And I was enjoying it. And then, yeah, the devil tried to attack me again. I got injured.
Did you think that like coming back after injury, obviously mentally it's horrible to try and pick yourself up after that time out of something that you love, but do you think that changed you as a player as well? Like generally your ability, like because you'd like not had the development over that time and that, and maybe your outlook on the game.
No, not ability. Probably made me a bit more cautious about doing. Made me a bit more cautious. I weren't as free as I normally was. So I would just try things and I'll do things, and would not care to get kicked as much. But once you get injured, you're a bit more concerned about getting kicked and don't really try as much as you used to. And you're always catching up as well, unless you get that run of games. So coming back, I didn't really get that run of games, and I was always catching up to get whether it's speed or fitness, strength, all of that. Like I was always catching up because I was out for a long time.
Yeah, understandable. But despite that, you still got your move to Southend.
Yes.
One, like, I mean, like, you still had a few seasons like left at that point when you went to Southend. It was 2016.
Yeah.
I mean, not too much game time in that one. Again, was that still like underlying injury problems, or did that one just not work out?
No. So when I signed for Southend, I only signed 6 months. So
Okay.
I signed for them in January, and then I had like 6 months. So, and at that time, like I said, I was coming back from injury.
Yeah.
And I was still catching up. So I was playing reserve games,
Right.
and on the bench, and stuff like that. So, and the team was doing well. We had a good squad, and they was doing well in the league, and they was in a decent position. And Phil Brown, he didn't change the team much. And then when he's making his subs, he puts on the same subs every week at the same time.
Oh, Christ.
It doesn't matter what the conditions of the game is. It just, that's how it felt at the time. So, it was frustrating for me because I felt like I was trying hard and I was pushing myself, but I was always catching up. But I just needed the game, and they said that I needed game time. But if I'm not playing, I can't get that game time. So, it was 6 months, but I didn't really get the opportunity to actually show what I wanted, how I am as a player. They saw it in training in spells, but that was difficult. And then, I just thought, because I've been injured for a little while. When I left it, I went to Maidstone. I could have stayed in the league.
That's what I thought. Like that was one of the major points I've picked out. Like you've obviously dropped from League One at that point, and then gone to National League football.
Yeah, but I could have stayed. Like I said, in the game, a lot of people don't see what actually goes on behind the scenes, and see how managers are and how they negotiate and how they treat people and all of that kind of stuff. So I went to Newport. I remember I went there to train and to play a game because they wanted to see me. And then the manager, he offered me a deal, and I was like, to move all this way, you want to offer me this? It makes no sense. And I've got family and kids at home. I'm not going to do that. So I went back. And then I went to Swindon, and then the same thing. Played a few games, trained for like 2 weeks, and then I trained and done well in the game. He offered me a deal. I remember him calling me, and the deal that he offered me, I was confused. And people say in a normal day's work is okay money. It's not even good money in a normal day's work.
Yeah.
And I'm like, nah. And then he wanted to offer me 6 months as well. And I'm thinking, it's the start of the season. You want to offer me 6 months and you're in the League Two. I'm like, nah, I need more security than that. Like, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
And then I was just like, oh no, it's fine. So then Maidstone came about. Maidstone called my agent saying, oh, does he want to just come and play games and show everyone what they're missing, kind of thing, and it would be a bonus for them. and by this time the season's just started. So I just said to myself, I just humbled myself, and even though I believed I was better than that level, everyone had their thoughts about me because maybe I've been injured. I didn't play that much at Southend, and all of that kind of stuff. So I just thought to myself, let's just go play some games in the league and show everyone that I can play consistently, games consistently, and just enjoy football, get some minutes. And that's all I thought to myself, because I missed a lot of football. So I went there, and I enjoyed it. To be fair, the manager, he wanted to play football as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I enjoyed it, and we had like a good team as such around us, like players that played in the league, and we done well. And I done well. I scored quite a few goals and all of that kind of stuff. And I only signed 6 months there because I didn't want to stay there all season.
So like this, like on your bio, you've got like they put a string of 4 FA Cup games together as well. So there must have been a good buzz about that team.
Yeah, it was a good team. We had players that, like I said, that played in the league.
Yeah,
we played MK Dons in league we played Cheltenham in the first round.
Yeah,
and MK Dons in the second round. We lost in the second round, but we had like a decent run. When I left there, I think it was at 5th in league, in the National League.
right.
So we was doing well.
Yeah. I suppose like with your performances that you earned, you moved back into to League Two with Chesterfield. Although unfortunately they dropped down, didn't they?
Yeah. So when I signed there, it was a bonus for Chesterfield because they didn't have to pay anything for me. And I remember Jack Lester was the manager. He spoke to me and said he wants me to come up there and help out. But obviously they was in a difficult situation where they was in the bottom 2 in the League 2. So me being confident, I said, I want to come and help. And obviously I looked at the squad as well. They got good players that could play. So and I remember when I first signed, and the training session was like unbelievable. Like the quality, the tempo was like very, very good. Like we had some good players. I remember him putting like a montage of not even a montage. He's just put they used to film our training sessions.
Okay.
He made us watch this training session. It was like a keep ball session and a bit of like a 11v11. And I was looking at it, I'm like, no, this is not us. Because it was too good.
Yeah.
No, it's so sharp. I'm like, we look so good. But then we'll go out on Saturday and then we won't play like that. And that's the frustration, because we was better than what we showed on the match day.
I suppose the frustration is there that when you're actually visibly seeing that you can do it in training.
Yeah, but then it just shows as well, like there's a lot of training players.
Yeah.
So, and I was probably included in that as well. So I didn't have my greatest time. And I think it's not only training. There's a lot of things that played a part in the club going down. There's a lot of off the pitch stuff that went on that I don't know too much about, but the fans weren't happy about.
Yeah.
And just the whole morale, the ground, it just weren't conducive to be successful.
Yeah.
So it all played a part in it, and then obviously, unfortunately, we went down.
And the next year you moved over to Bromley, where your career ended. And sort of that was it. You had to call time on it. And that was due to injury, wasn't it? In the end.
Yeah, that was part of it, but a large part, the major part of it was because I kind of fell out of love with the game, and that's me being honest. I fell out of love with playing in the low leagues and just certain environments, and I said to myself, I didn't want to put my body through something I'm not in love with. Like a lot of players right now, they're playing because they have to pay for the bills at that level. They have to pay for it, and that's the truth.
Yeah.
So I said to myself, I'd rather go do something that I'm loving, I actually like, than put my body through pain just to force myself to pay the bills. I'd rather go work a normal job than do that. That's how much I fell out of love with the game.
I mean, with a career that's like spanned all of the top leagues in English football, like, was that a horribly difficult decision to make? Like, you've played for some big clubs as well, and had like crazy success in some of those seasons.
It was tough because I love football, but I know that I have to do the thing that's right for me. I think once you get to a certain age, you think about yourself more than long term than short term. And
Yeah,
I thought to myself, at the time I was 30, just turned 30, and I just thought, like, family wise, I want to be happy. Like, I've lived my dream. I've done it. Like, I've done what a lot of my friends and their friends and friends of them wanted to do when they was younger. I lived it.
Yeah.
I've played in the Premier League. I've scored in the Premier League. I've played international for the 21s. I've played for the club that I love.
Yeah.
Like, I've done it. And I was thinking to myself, like, what more am I going to do now other than play in pain for something I'm not in love with, and not for the greatest money?
Yeah.
I'm not. I don't want to do that. So I said to myself that I'd rather do something, like I said, that I'm in love with, and I want to be able to help and impact youngsters.
Yeah.
And I can't do that if I'm not in the right frame of mind. So
it's difficult to have the right influence on anything, isn't it? I think if you can't mentally put yourself in the position to do so as well, and it's also a bit of a spiral, I think, because when you don't start not enjoying things,
yeah,
you then put the effort in to try and do those things properly anyway, and then you have to ask yourself, what's the value?
100%. Don't get me wrong, football's got its pros, and there's a lot of things that I do miss about football, but there's a lot of things that I don't as well. There's a lot of things that goes on that if it weren't for money, wouldn't happen.
Yeah.
And that's why it's sad.
Yeah. It's the whole story that, like, you've described as you've gone through your career tonight is there's points in it where you just think that if people could be a bit more human, they could extract so more from people's ability. Rather than just doing things maybe on a business sense and not taking the time to know people. And
I think once you get to first team level, I think people tend to care more about winning, which we all do. We all want to win.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the best managers have that balance and has that understanding of how to achieve all of that.
So for you, the need to win overtake the need to do the right thing in football?
It's hard to say because how the game is, managers don't stay in their job for that long anymore.
No.
So I could kind of understand why their thought process is, I need to win, otherwise I'm going to get rid of this player and get him, or if he's not doing it, get rid of it. The care for the person is not as much, and I understand that because they're thinking about themselves. They need to stay in their job so their family could get paid.
Yeah.
So, and I get that, but I don't know. It's for me, it's difficult. Managing is probably one of the most difficult thing to do. Coaching, because there's a lot more to the game now, especially the higher you go up. There's so much more that you got to consider. There's so much more tension. So there's a lot to the game. So, like, I can't fully sit here and say I'll blame them for how they treat or other players, but because I could understand the pressures that comes with the job.
Yeah.
What they have to deal with. But yeah, it's a difficult job. It's a difficult job.
It's tough. What we'll move on to just to wrap us up before we'll hand over to James. Got a couple of questions come in, if you don't mind answering. The first one, I'm going to put in a slightly different order to what I had them. It's just really poignant to what we've just been talking about, but it's a bit rephrased. A guy called Jamie wants to know: are managers more honest to players in professional football or non-league football? Or, as a similar question, which managers have had the best man management? Professional ones or the non-league ones?
Based on the managers that I've had, no. Managers, I don't think managers a lot of managers understand. And it's not only my manager. I think I have a conversation with other friends, players that plays for other clubs.
Yeah.
A lot of managers think they need to say certain things to. I don't know. I don't think a lot of managers are like honest about a lot of things. I think some managers hide things to get a reaction. A lot of managers do things for their own benefit. But I don't think there's enough honesty in the game. I think maybe now it might be changing, but I'm not sure. But from my experience, there's a lot of I've had conversations with past managers about when I'm not in the team or just conversation in general. Mm-hmm. And I'll leave the office feeling like I'm messy. Because he told me how good I'm doing in training and how good I am, and and I'll come out feeling pumped. I'm like, I can't wait till Saturday. Then it does the team shape on Saturday. I'm on the bench. I'm like, all right, cool. That was nice.
Yeah.
So but he won't tell me what, and then what will happen is they won't talk to you. They won't tell you why they didn't start you, or why you're not on the bench, or why you're not even in the squad.
So you're left in limbo, I guess.
Yeah, that's my thing. A lot of managers do that. They feel like they don't have to tell you nothing because they're the manager, and they don't, I guess. But you're not gonna, because say for instance a player goes down injured in that game, you're gonna want this player to step in, mm-hmm. and you're gonna want him to give his all.
Yeah.
They're not gonna want to do that.
No.
Mentally, his head's not in that space, so he's not gonna want to play for you. Well, a lot of managers do that. Expect the players to just switch it on and off, or expect the players. Then they'll give you that talk. This is your chance. Take your chance. These times, I know what a lot of players think. He's thinking, why are you even talking to me now?
Yeah.
And I think there's not a lot of honesty enough honesty in the game. I think there should be a lot more. I think players will respect that more. They might not like it straight away, but they'll if they're real honest people, they'll look at the situation and say, all right, cool, at least he's came and told me this, I'm going to prove him wrong, kind of thing.
Yeah, I get that. Another question we've had in is from a guy who listens to the show avidly, called Drew. Quite a big one for him to put up because he's a massive Man United fan. He's put, what was it like defeating Man United by quite a comfortable scoreline in the League Cup run?
Oh, well, that 4-0 win?
Yeah.
Special.
Yeah, I mean,
remember it was snowing that night as well, so it was a good night. It's a good night, and for me as well, playing against Man United, it's like when you're a kid, I don't know, it's like it's Man United, isn't it? So
the buzz in the dressing room must have been just something else before that game.
There's always a buzz because at West Ham we had some good players, man.
Yeah,
I'm confused on why we ever got relegated. It's crazy.
Yeah,
we had some good players, so there was always a buzz. I think the stadium and the fans itself, they just made the atmosphere what it is. Upton Park for me was special. You can't get that. And maybe it's just me and the feeling I got when I was walking out or warming up, but it's when it's a full house under the lights as well, fans are singing, it's frightening. it just excites me.
Yeah, it's mad. Well, that wraps up our chat that we've had about your career, Zavon. It has been a pleasure to go through it. I'll be honest, like I've been just sat here, like I can feel from your voice, like when you're excited, and I can feel what's wound you up as well.
Yeah.
I've been sitting here like grinning at times, and at other times I'm kind of feeling your pain as well as things go on. Like, but I can't help but feel like through all of it, you just feel like you've made the decisions that have been right for you, and like there's always been that drive behind being back near the people you love, coming out of the game because you fell out of love with it, knowing when you need to move on because things aren't right for you. It's all been driven by the decisions that you know are right for you at the time. It's been really like thrilling to listen to. It's a really different take, a really different story.
Yeah, thank you. I hope people enjoy it.
I do really appreciate you coming on. Up next, we'll have a brief chat with you just about your coaching career, which you've moved on to. So, like, I'm mad excited as well that you've been able to move into something else that you've like really found a love with it and managed to stay within football as well. So James is going to bring that up. But for this part of the podcast, for now, until next time, adios.